Okay, I will now translate the script into English, ensuring the emotional depth and core message are preserved. Introduction. Under the sun, the unsettling melody of vanity. Have you ever felt the weight of nothing makes sense? Have you ever lain awake at night in the silence of your room with the echo of a disturbing question canted out of your mind? What is the meaning of all this? You look at your journey, the struggles, the achievements, the fleeting joys, and the pains that insisted on staying, and a feeling of emptiness, a sense of futility, seems to cover everything like a grey cloak. If this anguish feels familiar, know that you are not alone. This is one of the oldest and most profound anxieties of the human soul. There is a book, an ancient and surprisingly modern text hidden in the pages of the Bible, that dares to confront this feeling, PTM, without detours or false comforts. A book that many consider the darkest of all, Ecclesiastes. Its author, known as the Preacher, was a king in Jerusalem, a man who had everything, wisdom, riches, power, pleasures, and who, from the pinnacle of his experience, reached a disconcerting conclusion. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. A breath, a mist, a smoke that dissipates into the air. Many turn away from Ecclesiastes because of its apparent pessimism. But what if I told you that in this book, which seems like an abyss of hopelessness, lies one of the most powerful keys to emotional liberation and inner peace? What if this brutal honesty about the meaninglessness of things under the sun was, in fact, the starting point for finding a meaning that does not fade with time? In this video, we will not offer easy answers or spiritual cliches. Together, we will walk through the shadows of Ecclesiastes, not to get lost in them, but to discover how accepting our finitude, our powerlessness in the face of certain mysteries of life, can free us to live more authentically, more presently, and, paradoxically, more fully. This is a journey for those who are tired of chasing the wind and long to find solid ground for their souls. A journey from nothing makes sense to the rediscovery of beauty in the simple act of existing. Before we dive deep, I ask for a moment of your attention. Take a quick look and check if you are subscribed to the channel. If you aren't already, this is the moment. Your subscription helps us continue to bring reflections like this, which can be a safe harbor for those who need it. Chapter 1. The Echo of Disillusionment, when the heart cries out against the futility of worldly achievements. Imagine a man who set out to test all paths to happiness. He sought unbridled pleasure, built magnificent houses, planted vineyards, designed gardens and parks. He accumulated silver and gold, the treasures of kings. He denied himself nothing his eyes desired. He became great, greater than all who came before him. Sounds like the definition of success, doesn't it? This man is the preacher of Ecclesiastes, and after all this searching, his conclusion is a punch to the gut of our culture of ambition. I looked at all the works that my hands had done, and the labor that I had toiled to achieve, and behold, all was vanity and chasing after the wind. There was no profit under the sun. This is the pain that many of us feel, albeit on a different scale. We follow the script. We study, work hard, seek recognition, build a family, buy the house, the car. We achieve goals that we were told would bring lasting satisfaction. And then on any given Tuesday morning, or in the silence of a Sunday night, emptiness knocks on the door. The achievement didn't fill the hole. The promotion brought more stress than joy. Wealth brought more worry than peace. The heart, which should be exultant, silently cries out against the futility of it all. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, centuries later, would echo this sentiment by stating that life swings like a pendulum, palavras and forth, between pain and boredom. We achieve a desire and soon boredom sets in, pushing us towards a new desire in an endless cycle of dissatisfaction. The preacher had already diagnosed this human condition with surgical precision. He shows us that the pursuit of more money, more pleasure, more recognition, even more human wisdom, is like trying to quench thirst with salt water. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. This disillusionment is not a sign of failure. On the contrary, it is a sign of awakening. It is your soul refusing to continue playing a game with rules that lead nowhere. It is the moment you begin to question the game board itself. The pain you feel is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to awaken you to a deeper truth. The value of your life cannot be measured by what you accumulate, but by the quality of your presence, by the depth of your connection with the moment, and by the purpose you find beyond fleeting things. If this reflection has touched on something real within you, if you have ever felt the weight of this vanity on your own journey, leave a like. Not as a simple click, but as a sign that you understand this search and are ready to look beyond illusions. Chapter 2. Between Wisdom and Suffering. The acute awareness of impermanence and repetition. In our quest for relief, many of us turn to knowledge. We believe that if we can understand the world, if we accumulate wisdom, we will be able to navigate life with more security and less pain. The preacher also followed this path. He says, "I applied my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly, and I came to know that this also was chasing after the wind. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow." What a shocking statement. In a world that idolizes information and intellect, Ecclesiastes warns us that human wisdom, by itself, can be a source of anguish. Why? Because the more you understand, the more you perceive the gears of repetition and impermanence that move the world. You see that what has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done, so there is nothing new under the sun. Generations come and go, empires rise and fall, and the earth remains forever. You observe injustice, the fragility of life, and the fact that the same fate, death, awaits the wise and the foolish, the righteous and the wicked. This acute awareness can be overwhelming. It's like climbing to the top of a mountain for a clearer view, only to realize the frightening vastness of the desert before you. Knowledge strips us of blissful ignorance. It forces us to face our own finitude and the apparent indifference of the universe. Existential psychologist Irvin Yalom spoke about how confronting the ultimate concerns of existence, death, freedom, isolation, and meaninglessness is an inevitable source of anxiety. The preacher of Ecclesiastes experienced this anxiety in its purest form. He saw that even with all his wisdom, he could not change the course of events, could not guarantee justice or create anything truly permanent. This is not a call to obscurantism or ignorance. It is an invitation to intellectual humility. The wisdom that Ecclesiastes criticizes is arrogant wisdom, the kind that believes it can decipher all mysteries and control reality. True wisdom, which the book subtly points to, begins with acknowledging our limits. It begins when we stop fighting against the cyclical nature of life and start asking ourselves how we can live meaningfully within it. It is the transition from wisdom that seeks to control to wisdom that seeks to accept and participate. It is understanding that although we cannot flatten all mountains or fill all valleys, we can learn to walk the landscape we have been given with grace, dignity, and an attentive heart. Chapter 3. The Desert of the Soul. Confronting existential loneliness and the absence of perennial meaning. After testing pleasures, work, and wisdom, the preacher leads us to one of the most arid places of human experience, the desert of the soul. It is at this point that the question, "What is the meaning?" becomes more acute. He observes the cycle of human labor. What profit has a man from all his labor in which he toils under the sun? He sees that we work, accumulate, and then leave everything to someone who may not have even strived for it. He laments, "This also is vanity and a great evil." This perception confronts us with our existential loneliness. The philosopher Martin Heidegger spoke of human beings as being towards death, someone whose existence is largely defined by the awareness of their own finitude. We are thrown into the world without asking and are taken from it without our consent. And in between, we desperately seek to leave a mark, a legacy, something that says, "I was here, my life mattered." Ecclesiastes, with its relentless honesty, seems to tell us that even this search can be an illusion. Time, like a mighty river, eventually carries everything to the sea of oblivion. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of things that are to come by those who will come after. To feel this, candidatos your bones, is devastating. It is the crisis of the middle-aged man who looks back and wonders if his choices were worthwhile. It is the pain of the artist who fears their work will be forgotten. It is the anguish of anyone who stops in the midst of the daily rush and feels like an extra in their own life, playing a role whose script seems empty. It is the feeling that, in the grand cosmic scheme, our life is just a blink of an eye, a breath in the vastness of time. This is the true face of the vanity the preacher speaks of. Transience, impermanence, the futility of trying to build a sandcastle at the water's edge. Confronting this truth is an act of immense courage. It is easier to distract oneself, to dive into work, entertainment, anything that muffles that inner voice candidative about impermanence. But the path to peace is not in distraction, but in confrontation. Carl Jung said, "What you resist persists." By resisting this feeling of emptiness, we give it more power over us. The invitation of Ecclesiastes is to stop running. It is to sit for a moment in this desert of the soul and observe it. What is this absence of perennial meaning trying to teach us? I want you to reflect on this for a moment. Have you ever felt yourself in this desert? Have you ever been haunted by the idea that your works and your days might simply disappear? Share in the comments, anonymously if you prefer, how this feeling of vanity manifests in your life. By sharing, we realize that we are not alone even in our loneliness. Chapter 4. The Inner Turn. Finding light in the shadow of hopelessness. The awakening to the here and now. Just when the journey through Ecclesiastes seems to plunge us into complete nihilism, a subtle but profoundly transformative turn begins to happen. The book does not end in despair. After demolishing all our false securities and idols, pleasure, work, wealth, human wisdom, the preacher leaves us in a space of emptiness. And it is in this void that a new possibility can be born. The acceptance of vanity is not the end point, but the gateway to a new way of living. After telling us that everything is futile, the preacher begins to give us surprising advice. "Behold, what I have. Seen to be good and fitting is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil with which one toils under the sun, during the few days of his life that God has given him. For this is his lot." He repeats this idea several times. "Go, eat your bread with joy, and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already approved your works. Enjoy life with the wife whom you love, all the days of your vain life." What is happening here? Is this a contradiction? No, it is the purest existential. Wisdom. The preacher is telling us, since you cannot find ultimate and permanent meaning in your great works, since you cannot control the future or understand all the mysteries of the universe, then free yourself from this crushing burden. Stop looking for the meaning of life somewhere distant, in an idealized future or a posthumous legacy, and start finding it in life itself, here, now. This is the great inner turn. It is the shift from seeking an external purpose to cultivating an internal meaning. Meaning is not something you discover like a hidden treasure, but something you create, moment by moment, in your way of relating to reality. The Stoic Seneca reminded us that true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence on the future. The preacher, in his own way, guides us to this same conclusion. If life is a breath, then let that breath be lived with attention, with presence, with gratitude. The joy that Ecclesiastes proposes is not the superficial euphoria of the pursuit of pleasures that he himself criticized at the beginning. It is a deeper, more serene joy. It is the contentment that arises from shared bread, from a sip of wine drunk with a peaceful heart, from love for those who walk beside us, from work well done for the simple value of the work itself, and not for the reward it may bring. It is recognizing that these simple moments are not distractions from real life. They are real life. They are God's gifts, the portions allotted to us in this transitory journey. It is the discovery that the light is not at the end of the tunnel of hopelessness, but shines softly in the darkness itself when we learn to light the candle of the here and now. Chapter 5. Breaking free from the chains of expectation, the wisdom of living with purpose despite the absurd. One of the greatest sources of human suffering is the weight of our own expectations. We expect life to be fair. We expect hard work to always be rewarded. We expect the people we love to never disappoint us. We expect to have control over our future. Ecclesiastes, by declaring that all is vanity, acts like a Zen master who gives us a sudden blow to awaken us. He shatters these expectations. He shows us that the righteous may suffer while the wicked prosper, that time and chance happen to everyone, and that our wisdom is limited. At first, this sounds like a terrible message, but think of the freedom it contains. If you cannot control everything, then you can. Stop trying. If life has no obligation to meet your expectations, then you can free yourself from bitterness and resentment when it doesn't. The philosopher Epictetus, one of the great names of Stoicism, taught that we must distinguish between what is in our power and what is not. Wisdom and peace, according to him, come from focusing our energy only on what we can control, our judgments, our intentions, our actions, and accepting with serenity what we cannot. Ecclesiastes, in a Hebraic and poetic way, leads us to this same liberation. The acceptance of vanity strips us of illusions. It is an invitation to stop fighting against reality and start dancing with it. And it is from this acceptance that a new kind of purpose can emerge. Not a grandiose purpose of changing the world or leaving an immortal legacy, but the simple and powerful purpose of living well the life we have been given. At the end of the book, after all his searching and disillusionment, the preacher reaches a surprising and clear conclusion. The end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Some may see this as a simplistic religious conclusion that contradicts the rest of the book. But look closer. Fear God, in the context of Hebrew wisdom, is not about paralyzing fear, but about a deep respect and reverence for the mysterious order of things, for the Creator who is beyond our comprehension, and keep his commandments can be seen as a call to live an ethical, just and upright life, not because it will guarantee an earthly reward. The book has already shown us there are no guarantees, but simply because it is the right thing to do. Purpose, then, becomes the journey itself. It is to live with integrity, with love, with reverence despite the apparent absurdity. It is to find meaning not in the final outcome, but in the quality of each step. It is the freedom of living without the need for applause or guarantees, finding fulfillment in the very act of living a worthy life. If the idea of freeing yourself from the weight of expectations and finding purpose in the journey resonates with you, if it brings a breath of relief to your soul, show your support with a like. Let's spread this liberating message to more people who need to hear it. Chapter 6. Rebuilding meaning. Small gestures, great meanings, the practice of conscious joy and gratitude. We arrive then at the crucial point. How do we translate this ancient and profound wisdom into practical actions for our daily lives? How do we move from philosophy to the practice of rebuilding meaning, even in a world that so often seems to have none? Ecclesiastes, after taking us to the depths of the existential pit, offers us the tools to build a ladder back to the light, not a dazzling light of naive optimism, but the soft, steady light of contentment. The first tool is the practice of conscious joy. Remember the preacher's advice. Eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart. This is an invitation to mindfulness. How many times do we eat hastily, thinking of 1,000 other things without tasting the food? How many times are we in a moment of leisure, but our mind is caught up in tomorrow's worries? Conscious joy is the deliberate act of being present in your own pleasures. It is savoring breakfast. It is feeling the warmth of the sun on your skin. It is truly listening to the laughter of someone you love. It is transforming routine activities into rituals of gratitude. Meaning is not in the event itself, but in your ability to be fully present in it. The second tool is the acceptance of cycles. Chapter 3 of Ecclesiastes is one of the most beautiful poems ever written about time. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. We live in a culture that only values the time to plant, to laugh, to win. We fiercely resist the time to lose, to weep, to die. The wisdom of Ecclesiastes is to accept that all these times are part of life, to accept that there will be winters in our soul just as there will be springs. This acceptance is not passivity, it is the end of a useless war against reality, which frees up immense energy to live each season with the dignity it demands. The third tool is the valuation of relationships. Amidst his melancholy, the preacher states, "Two are better than one, for if they fall, one will lift up his companion. But woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up." In the pursuit of great achievements, we often neglect human connections, which are the true fabric that gives color and strength to our existence. Invest in your relationships. Be present for people. The meaning you seek may be in the gaze of a friend who listens to you, in the hug of a child, in the partnership of a lifetime. These are not grandiose pieces of advice. They are small gestures, but it is in them that great meaning is built. It is the daily, conscious practice that transforms vanity from a condemnation into an invitation to live fully. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these small gestures, which of these tools, conscious joy, acceptance of cycles, valuing relationships, do you feel you most need to practice in your life right now? Share your reflection in the comments. Your sharing could be the inspiration someone else needed to start rebuilding their own meaning. From nothing makes sense to peace, found in simple living. The timeless message of Ecclesiastes for a restless soul. We have come a long way together. We began in the shadowy valley of disillusionment, where the phrase, "all is vanity and chasing after the wind" echoes. We confronted the emptiness that worldly achievements cannot fill. We felt the weight of wisdom that increases sorrow by revealing the impermanence and repetition of all things. We traversed the desert of existential loneliness, facing the terrifying possibility that our lives, in the grand scheme, are merely a breath. It was an uncomfortable, honest, and for many painfully familiar journey. But we did not end in darkness. We saw how, precisely at this point of surrender, when all our illusions about control and permanence are dismantled, a new light can emerge. The timeless message of Ecclesiastes is not one of nihilism, but of a radical realism that sets us free. It frees us from the tyranny of more, from the crushing pressure for an immortal legacy, from the anxiety of trying to decipher a cosmic plan that is beyond our comprehension. We learned that accepting vanity is not an invitation to inertia, but a call to presence, a call to find the sacred in the ordinary. Meaning is not hidden in a distant future goal. It is woven into the small threads of the now, in the conscious joy of a meal, in the serene acceptance of cycles of gain and loss, in the strength found in human bonds, and in the quiet purpose of living each day with integrity and reverence. The preacher teaches us that peace comes not from having all the answers, but from being comfortable living with the questions. Happiness is not the absence of pain, but the ability to find contentment and beauty amidst the fragility of existence. Life, with all its beauty and brutality, with its mysteries and its transience, is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be lived. Therefore, the next time the feeling that nothing makes sense visits your soul, do not despair. Remember the preacher's wisdom. Take a deep breath. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Look around you. Find one small thing to appreciate, one small act of kindness to perform, one present moment to fully inhabit. Because in the end, the whole duty of man, the sum of it all, may simply be this: to live the life you have been given here and now, with a grateful heart and a humble spirit. And maybe, just maybe, that is more than enough meaning. If this journey through Ecclesiastes has brought any peace, clarity, or comfort to your heart, I ask you to join our community of seekers. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Every new subscription is a reminder that we are not alone in this search for a deeper, more meaningful life. Thank you for your presence.